Today we're talking about controllers. Controllers. It's how you play the game. This is a Super Nintendo controller. How far we have come. And it's because I grabbed the oldest one I could find, and technically it's not the oldest, but it's styled off the oldest. This came with the Super Nintendo little mini version that they put out at some point, but it illustrates a point. I also have the console itself, but that's not what this is about. It's about the controllers. This, if you can barely see it with how dark it is what came with the Sega Genesis mini refresh that they did. Again, a D-pad and a bunch of buttons. I did not grow up playing things like this. I grew up with, I don't have a PlayStation 2 controller, but boy, it does look like, imagine this with a cord coming out of it. It's a PlayStation 2 controller. This is the PlayStation 3 controller. But this, and many of them, is what we learned to play on. The first video game console, like I've talked about in a couple previous videos, we had was a PlayStation 3. And yes, I played computer games before that, but I have to say, a mouse and keyboard was designed for computer interactions before video games existed. Controllers were built for video games. I prefer a controller. I know that that is a widely debated topic even today, 40 or 50 years later. I prefer a controller. My go-to is to sit down. It depends on the game as well, but typically 9 times out of 10, I'd rather play with a controller than with a mouse and keyboard. Can you blame me? I started it. This is how I learned how to play video games, was on a controller like this. I also have a blue one, but neither here nor there. We've got these, right? Imagine they're PlayStation 2. I wouldn't really play a whole lot of PlayStation 3 as I've talked about in the past, but here we go. What I would play a lot of is this, the Xbox 360. This is just a black Xbox 360 controller with an orange skin on it because that's what I preferred. I wanted orange controllers, and they did not make orange controllers for the Xbox 360, at least not first-party ones, maybe a third-party, but I did find on eBay many years ago these orange silicone grips, which I liked. None of my friends liked them. They referred to them as condoms and made fun of me for it, but I liked them, and I've left them on there. It's a mistake to leave them on there this long. This is literally decades that it's been on there, and I know that it has kind of fused to it, and now it leaves a horrible texture. I already took one off at one point. But anyway, the Xbox 360. I could do a whole video on that as well, but we're just talking about the controllers. We've upgraded. It's very similar, though. It's got that same kind of style to 2 joysticks, the D-pad, you got 4 face buttons. Some people change up the face buttons as to what they mean and where they do, looking at you, Nintendo. But speaking of Nintendo, I didn't mind this. I liked this. For certain games, this was a lot of fun for the Wii. The Wii was a fun time. I did not get a Wii until much later on, but I was babysitting some kids that had a Wii, and so as long as their homework was done, we got to play Wii games. Played a bunch of Wii bowling and tennis. I think there was boxing at some point. We played a fair amount of Wii games, especially the sports ones. They were young kids. Well, I don't remember us playing anything like Legend of Zelda, but this was a fun time as well. And further than that, even better, this was a fun time as well too. The Wii U, this is a more standard controller now, isn't it? Let me see where the inspiration came from. I like the Wii U. The Wii U was a fun time. Oh, I had fun with that. But the controller, I thought it got better. It definitely, I preferred playing with this. We had a few other options. That's a pretty similar. Now look, you've got things in a different layout for this stuff that I don't really care for. For whatever reason, thumb here feels better to me than thumb up here. But look, we did have that as well. The one I never wanted to get stuck with was this. Look at its size comparison. This is another third-party off-brand Wii U controller. It's tiny. It's a little bitty thing. My fingers don't really work on this. I felt bad for whoever got it. It's like it was for children. It is a mini little thing that we had. It fits inside of this one. But anyway, that was the Wii U. What happened? I'm jumping out of line here. I know I'm just kind of pulling out of the box and we're talking about it. But the GameCube, why? Why? I didn't like the GameCube controller, but I liked it a lot better than the N64, which I did not have. But I do remember it, when I think GameCube controller, unfortunately, I remember going over to a friend's house and playing Smash Brothers. Super Smash Brothers or Melee, probably. I think it was Melee on this one. And I got no one wanted it and we had to trade off, but I just remember hurting my thumb on a controller, a C joystick here that was broken and just a sharp point that you would dig into your finger as you're trying to play. And for whatever, that ruined my opinion of the GameCube. I owned a GameCube later on. I don't have one anymore. I still have some controllers for it. I don't play Super Smash Brothers anyway, but I'm not about to hook up a GameCube controller in order to play it. I understand why people do, and that's perfectly fine. That's not for me. I also have this, which is a Logitech. Does it have a model number on it? Not one that's a GUF. So, all right. I have a Logitech controller. It's a bit dark. It's kind of hard to see here, but yeah, we have a Logitech controller here. This, I don't remember when it came about, but it would have been, this is just a USB. It's straight up for PC. I do remember playing PC games with this. I don't remember where it came from. I don't know if I bought it or someone gave it to me, but this was the first time I learned about mapping a controller to PC games. And I played MapleStory, a game we've talked about in the past that I played a lot of. I remember hooking it up to this because you didn't need that many buttons for the skills. And I remember playing MapleStory on a controller just to say that I could. It didn't work very well. I went back to keyboard. Some games, keyboard's better. Just my preference. But since we are jumping around and moving back and forth, what about Halo Reach? Halo is something that I very much enjoy. The Halo Reach controllers are really cool. We're back on Xbox 360. I liked this, and this really, I think this was the first controller that was custom. Remember, we were talking about, I liked the controller, but I wanted it different. This was different. And this kind of spurned into something else. I bought that Halo Reach console off of a friend who went and got it at midnight. I just got the game. I already had a working Xbox 360 and was working minimum wage. Not a lot of money, could not really afford it, but he bought the whole console. He had the whole thing. So eventually I'd get it from him when he no longer wanted to play Xbox. And now I have it, and it does work. I actually booted it up just the other day to get back to see an Xbox 360 and looking. Anyway. So I would get the Xbox 360 from him later on. I did not need a second one, but I wasn't going to let it go through. This was a really cool design, and that's what we're kind of moving into next, is the design of controllers. I liked this a lot. This was cool. Also, I have a Nintendo Switch controller in here that's dead. I started playing Pokemon with it the other month, and the joystick is completely busted. Then we move on. We've got the Xbox One. Is this an original Xbox One? I don't remember. I don't think so. I've got a bunch of Xbox controllers. I did not dig all of them out. This is the one that I use to play on the Xbox currently when I sit down here to record. Just basic black controller. It works perfectly fine. I know that they've made some updates since then, like the share button and things like that. So this one's a little bit older, I believe. But the Xbox One and the designs. Got to make a little bit more room here. The first Xbox controller I bought with a cool design was Titanfall. I bought it brand new and I paid $65 for it. It was right around the launch of Titanfall, if I remember correctly. And man, this thing is cool. Yes, it's just an Xbox One controller, but look at the skin on it. That's awesome. And this would really kind of launch it into, well, a game controller can be great. I played with every game controller that I've owned, but game controllers break over time, they wear down, and then what are you going to do with them? Well, they can sit on a shelf and look awfully pretty. This one sits on a shelf directly behind me for when I'm working. It's in the background of meetings because I really like the Titanfall. I like Titanfall as a game. I like the box. I like the art. I like the controller. It's an art piece for me now. Now that it no longer functions, I actually think this one's fine. I probably could clean it up. They're definitely all very dirty, but regardless, there it is. And then after this, another Halo 5? No, it's not Infinite. Infinite's the new one that came out. This was for Xbox One. I don't remember if it was 4 or 5, but I bought that. I actually got a whole console. That was a console that I used for many years. I needed a new Xbox. Mine was older and was starting to show its age, but they had a special edition. I got a whole Xbox special edition for the controller and the Xbox. I don't have it with me. It's in a box somewhere, but the controller looks nice. You talk about another one. Now we've got kind of gray buttons. I really like the color of this blue along here with the D-pad. This is really cool. And then after this, the next controllers we would get would be more with designs that we both really like. I got the Volcano Shadow. This was a series that Xbox did where they started releasing ones, the Shadow series. They go to black. They have this beautiful gradient from a volcano, this kind of burnt orange almost, moving into a black, and you get the orange on the button. I used this for a very long time. It's really good. I very much like this one, and this was mine. This was the one that I had. What did she have? Well, she got Dawn Shadow. Again, kind of a purple, looks really nice. These are usually on display out in the living room. I've pulled them in here for a video, but this is the one that she used. You've got that same, just a different color shift going to black, but this was really cool too. And then a couple years later, we get the Dusk Shadow. Now at this point, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I've not tested anything, I'm just looking at it. The Dawn Shadow has, oh, that's what it is. The black here, that's how you can tell between the different styles. So this is a newer one that came with the Xbox One X, I think, because it's all, even though it's solid black, it's one piece, and these are separate pieces. I'm remembering now. Anyway, I believe my Dawn Shadow started to joystick drift. That's a problem you get with these after a while. The joysticks start going. They're not meant to last forever, and it's something. It's a problem. I don't like it, but this is a beautiful blue. Honestly, looking at the two side by side, it's not quite as bright as the box, which I may be a little disappointed in, but the brightness comes through on these buttons, which I like that. But yeah, a really nice. I do believe this one was another one that I played with, while she got a different special edition. Sea of Thieves. We played a bit of Sea of Thieves, nothing fantastic. You got this, and it's a really cool, it's mostly because it's purple. It's also got like a transparency to it and like notches out of, this is a really cool controller. I didn't play a whole lot of Sea of Thieves, but like it's a really nice design. I like this a lot. This is what she played with for many years, and then we move into something a little bit more modern. We have another shift that I've forgotten the name of. This is a bluer one. I don't have a box for it, unfortunately, but what's really cool about this one, we're yet another, now we've gotten the newest generation with the share button built into it, which I'm honestly glad I don't have, because you just hit it accidentally and it takes a screenshot. But this was a really cool thing that they did. They've got the rubberized grips. Rubberized grips are a game changer. I really like that. And it's got a really neat teal blue design on both of them. This is really cool. This is a beautiful controller. She already had to send it back. That's why we lost the box. Unfortunately, put it back in the box, mailed the box off to them because it was broken. It would not connect or turn on, if I remember correctly. And she had to have it replaced under warranty and did not keep we didn't keep the box, did not read that in the instructions, and they don't send the box back. They just send you a refurbished controller. So we don't have a box for this one, unfortunately. Still have the controller. The one she's using right now, which is why I only have the box, is the Stellar Shift. And this thing is beautiful. It's got a very galaxy theme to it, very blue and purpley. It's really cool. We both really like controllers, special editions, neat colors, things like that. You may notice from this entire video, that's kind of the point of what's going on here. But let's get back to what I've been using. Before we get to that, I have two controllers left. This one is by far my favorite of all time. It is the Steam controller, oddly enough. Now, I talked about it. I like PC games. I play it here and there, and we've talked about many times on this channel and things like that of the different games that I've played. And I do prefer a controller when I'm playing. This is a brilliant controller. I know that there was some controversy and people didn't like it. It is different. It's from a standard, I don't have joysticks. I don't have two joysticks, but you know what? I hope you heard that. I hope that came through on the mic, because that's a beautiful little jingle that it makes. It's silly. I could turn it off. I like it. And then I don't think you'll be able to tell this, but it's a haptic feedback. I don't know if that came through either. Basically, it makes the little rumble pack in there for the vibration, make a little tick noise whenever you're scrolling through. This can be used to control. Actually, you know what I'm doing? I'm controlling my computer out in the living room right now. Let me turn it off. Again, a little jingle. Hopefully that came through. I really enjoyed this. It's got back buttons, which is cool. You've got the usual triggers, a D-pad built into it. It's a different design. It takes some getting used to. There was a learning curve, but this was just a great controller. I really liked this. I would also play with the Xbox controllers, but given a choice, as long as it had support for it, except for first-person shooters. That's the only one I'll say. I've tried first-person shooters on here. I gotta have a joystick. That's just a me personal preference thing, I think, because I've tried them all. But for me, it's got to be a joystick. This one just doesn't quite cut it. But you know what? I've been using my computer that's out in the living room, my gaming PC out there, mostly to play videos or look up guides and things when I'm playing games. Like I talked about playing through the Dark Souls. That's how I have it. I've got 2 screens out there. I've talked about that before. I only realized today when I was prepping for this video and I went, wait, where's my Steam controller? It's so good. I could just use this to control my mouse. Like I can replace the mouse and keyboard entirely with just this. And then I can control it when I'm playing videos and stuff. That's what's going to happen with this one next. But you know what? Before we move on to the last one, just a little bit more about the Steam controller. Again, fantastic controller. If you never got to use it, I'm sorry. It's been discontinued now. They no longer make it. I'm going to use this until it breaks. And then I'll be sad for 0.5 seconds. Because when they discontinued it, they announced that they were going to be selling them for like $5 in shipping or something like that. It was very, very cheap, and I immediately ordered one. I have this is a completely fully sealed package for a second Steam controller that is just waiting. This has been going for many years since I bought it. I bought it, I don't think at launch, but pretty close to it when I heard it came out, and I went, oh, I can play my PC games with it. This was also, if I remember correctly, the timeline back before they just had native support fully for wireless Bluetooth. Xbox did not have Bluetooth controllers. You could plug one in, but then you were wired in. So for me to get a wireless controller and go, well, I can try it and see how I like these touchpads. I love the touchpads. But when I was doing that, now I could play wirelessly, which at this point, Xbox is just built into it. It's Microsoft. You can just turn it on as long as you've got Bluetooth on your computer. Your controller's ready to go. And as a matter of fact, by the time this comes out in the recording schedule, the wildlife vlog stuff will have been out, or the landscape stuff. I use an Xbox controller to control some of my camera equipment. So it's even combining my 2 favorite things, video games and cameras equipment going outside. But yes, I do have 2 of them. I will be using this completely. I'm ready to go. And if it dies and I can't fix it in some way, which I hope I'll be able to, I've got a backup ready to go. Very happy about this planning. It's still going though. This has been many, many years and it's still just fine. It's day 1. But there is one more controller. I believe in 2019, I went out and purchased an Xbox Elite controller and used it for many, many years. I specifically bought the white one, and I'll show you in a second. As with all the first generation Xbox Elite controllers, I don't actually know if there was a lawsuit. I don't fully remember, but there was a problem. The rubber grips started coming off of the controllers. This does not have the rubber grips. This just has a textured plastic shell to it, the Xbox One X controller. But the newer ones, as I was just showing you, have a rubber grip to them. And the Elite controller specifically came apart. It just started coming off, and I would kind of super glue it back here and there. Eventually got to the point where I decided I needed to replace them entirely. And that's when I started looking to buy parts to work on my old Elite controller. By this point, I think the second version had been announced. This is a bag full of parts. And I actually have the carrying case it came with as well. I'll show you the controller in just a second. But yes, I do have... I got the faceplate for it. This was the white faceplate for it. What really started breaking on it was sticking in a little bit, the buttons, the controller. The main thing was the grips. I wanted to replace the grips. These things right here, which you can see, I super glued them a lot. And I don't recommend that as a way to replace them. It only lasts for a certain amount of time. And then it just wears off anyway. It's not a great design, Xbox. But I believe they fixed it going forward. I had to replace these. And if I was going to tear it apart in order to replace them, I might as well replace more than that. These were the side pieces that go on there, and you can see where the super glue, I had a really hard time getting that off of there, but I did. And I've got all kinds of extra little pieces here because I decided to spend a bit more money and upgrade my controller in a way that I was happy with, and I could make a custom controller unlike anyone else. And so this is my controller. This is my controller that I have been using for several years now. As a matter of fact, when I did it and I went through this entire process, it was back in Wyoming. At this point, I'm making content on Patreon and YouTube, and I took pictures of it to kind of practice some product photography and also just tell the story and how excited I was. It requires unsoldering and resoldering, I believe, in order to fully get this, if I'm thinking of the right thing, in order to fully get this thing done. But First of all, a beautiful painting on here, the wave. This was great. I really like gold. It's a cool color scheme, so I did that as well. I got some blue on there. I pretty much tried to upgrade everything I could. These actually have started to wear a bit, but they had little blue underneath. This has been an absolutely fantastic controller. The only thing, I could not get original white for the back pieces. This was the main thing. This was what I had to buy, was these rubber grips. And it was better to buy a rubber grip that came as one single piece. And I could not get the original white, but that's okay. I got this purple and blue color shifting. I think it'll show up on camera maybe. It's a very weird thing. It doesn't quite fit with everything, but it's fine. It works, it functions. There's a reason why I have to have an Elite controller now. And I'll be honest with you, we're going to go into it more into the next video, because I'm going to talk about what game I play specifically with the Elite controller that I cannot play without it at this point. But I've got the little pieces, I've got the paddles in here, all kinds of little attachments and things like that. I play with this controller every single day. This is my main controller right now, and it's getting on there in years. It still functions just fine. I can switch, you know, I was able to fully take it apart and go, well, if I break it, I'll just switch back to a regular controller and be sad until I can afford another Elite controller. But I managed to do it. I took the whole thing apart. I replaced all of it, except for this. This is still original. This is the original backplate that it came with it, because the backplate was prohibitively expensive. Compared to everything else, I picked up all of the other pieces parts, these customizable, the rings to put in here. I changed the light. This is a blue LED in here now. I customized every bit of it I could, but buying this was almost as much as buying a whole new controller. So it really did not equal out. And there was nothing wrong with this. I did not need to. Since then, you may have noticed as I'm holding it, the original rubber grips are on this back piece. On these back pieces, there's 4 pieces of rubber grips to a controller. You got the 2 outer ones that connect to these things here, and the 2 inner ones that go here. And these have started to come up as well. They've started bubbling in certain places. So it's not the most comfortable while I'm holding it, but it's just in a certain way. It actually, if you can see, my middle fingers here are pushing on them, and I do this constantly while I'm playing. While I'm doing this and I'm playing here, my middle fingers are hitting there, just as a like, ooh, a little, like I can press into the rubber. I don't want to do that. I'm ready for a new controller. They're expensive. We'll talk about that. Actually, let's talk about that now. I'm ready to buy a new controller, and I've got to have an Elite because of the main game that I play. The one that we haven't gotten to, and the one we'll talk about next week, I have to have paddles for. And I'll go into why for next week, but I'm ready for a new one. This has been great. This has lasted me. I got more life out of a broken controller that I could no longer use. The rubber grips had come off, and it got to the point where it was just hard plastic and super glue, hard super glue rubbing. I cut my finger on my controller, and that's when I decided, okay, pull the trigger, spend a bit of money. We either need a new controller or we need to fix this one. And I fixed it up. It's beautiful. I love this. It's something I did. I got to design every part of this, and I really am happy with the way it came out. I like the blue. I like the color of the wave pattern. I like everything about this, the way that it is, and I like how the gold accents it. I've got the little blue D-pad on here as well. You can see it was green underneath. The white Elite controller came with the green, but this was my experience with the Elite controller, and since then, I gotta have Elite. And as a matter of fact, let's talk about what I'll be buying next. This is Xbox Design Lab, and this is the next controller I plan on getting. It's not finalized. They finally opened up their design lab. That's where you can customize a controller yourself. They saw the market. They saw how everyone is able to go through and make their own custom controllers. There are third parties that sell you a very expensive custom controller that I've heard great things about, but they never had it for Elite until probably a year ago. I heard about it and went, that's the one I gotta have. And I've gone through, I like orange. Orange is my whole thing. If you've seen a video from the beginning of 2023, I built a computer specific to game out in the living room so I could get back into PC gaming and also have a secondary monitor whenever I'm playing Xbox games. A controller, Xbox, will now work with both. And I like orange. My computer is orange and black, so I want that to match that aesthetic, and also orange is one of my favorite colors, and orange and black look good together. I'm not thrilled that they only have soft orange for the faceplate and backplate here, but it's better than nothing. And I do like the bright orange. I'm not entirely sold. I've been debating about going back and forth between black on there and you just get some orange highlights, or going full orange. I'm probably just going to go with full orange. I don't mind the color. It gives it 3 tones, right? You get one color of orange, the second one to offset it, and black all over everything else. The metal will be a little different, but I can pop new things into there anyway. But this is what I plan on buying, and you can see the price right down here because I'm going the full thing. I gotta have the paddles. I want the whole thing, and I'm ready for the new generation of console. I can't wait to hit that share button by accident and be capturing screenshots constantly like I do with the older controller that I don't use anymore, and with the especially on the Switch. The Nintendo Switch has a share button where you're taking screenshots and I hit it accidentally constantly. So I'm ready for that. I'm ready for a new controller. I want this. It's just $210. I don't really have $210 to spend on a controller when mine works perfectly fine, but this is my plan. My plan is to hopefully buy myself a new controller at some point when I have a bit of extra money and be able to use it for both my gaming PC, which is orange and black, and for my Xbox. Boy, does it look cool though. Oh, check this out too. When you go through and you're looking at all of the stuff, you get the paddles and you get the thumbstick set. I got extra thumbsticks for my collection of doing this stuff, but I could get a new case. Oh, look at I've already, I got that case from before, but now it can come with orange. Yeah, I'm going to pay a little bit extra to get the one with the orange case. Yes. Is it expensive? Yes. Am I still considering buying it right now anyway? Yes. But that's a bit impulsive. We'll probably have to wait and see. I need to see how money flows out a little bit, but I'm ready for a new controller, and this is the controller I plan on buying. I think it goes without saying, but especially collecting different editions. We even had a plan at one point when they started doing the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons to buy all of the colors of the Joy-Cons. That didn't happen. They're expensive, and we weren't using extra ones anyway. But these are the controllers that you've used over various times. I continue to use every day. What I plan on getting in the future, I like controllers. This video has gone on long enough. I'm pretty sure you get the point. Controllers are something that I like, and especially being able to collect them and being able to customize them. It opened up an entirely new world in order to do this, and I just really enjoy controllers, and I'm sure I've faded out by now.